Life isn't always fair, and of course, this Washington Nationals offense, as we continue to move on in the season, they just get more frustrating and frustrating as time goes on.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, while you're at it, make sure to search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on YouTube. Just search up, again, Locked On Nationals. Hit that subscriber button as well wherever you get your podcasts. Again, it could be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it. Just make sure hit that subscriber button. Later on in today's show, the Nationals head out west tonight. They face the Colorado Rockies, in which one of the worst teams in the National League. Nats, get it together. Let's get this offense back on track. You're in a great place to get your offense on track in that high altitude. So we'll have that series preview a little bit later on in today's show. Second segment of the day, Nats Prospect Stock Report. If you're new here, this is a daily or Friday staple rather, where you get your latest Nationals prospect news, as the Nationals, they've got a pretty loaded farm system. And of course, you've got some pretty big names on this stock report. A couple former first round picks. Have they been doing well or have they not been doing too well? I'll give you a stock up or a stock down in the second segment of today's show. But we start off talking about the Diamondback series, as the Nationals, they had a chance to win this series, but nope, they fell short yet again. So before we get into it, today's episode of the Locked On Nationals podcast is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked on. So we get started today talking about this Nationals team, as we all know that the Nationals, they are a little bit of a fool's gold team. That's just what it is. And when we talk about the Nats, obviously not many people were really expecting them to be in this equation so far on the season, but you're sitting at 36-38 right now, and you're in a wild card race, especially going up a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks, who is right there neck and neck with you. They now sit at 37-38 on the season. So the Nationals, you are about a half game back from the Arizona Diamondbacks at this point in time. And again, the Diamondbacks are a much better team. They're a much more complete team. Even though they've had this slow start, they're having kind of like that World Series hangover a little bit, where they went on that magical carpet ride just last season into the World Series. But the way that the Nationals have been playing recently, you would have expected them to put up a little bit more of a fight. That did not really happen over the course of this series, the Nats. Yesterday, and this has kind of been the overwhelming issue so far of 2024, is the inconsistency and, of course, the lack thereof with the Nationals offense. You cannot go into 2024 with, number one, no power. Now, the Nationals, while they did hit 2 home runs yesterday, Lane Thomas and Jesse Winker added to their recent hot stretch, and specifically Jesse Winker, talking about him, he has been the one kind of carrying this offense over the last week. CJ Abrams is in that equation as well, but ultimately he's still sidelined with a little cyst on his wrist. We'll have that update a little bit later on in today's show, but the Nationals, you need to find ways to kind of manufacture runs. And one way that they were doing that was getting on base, stealing bases, having Jacob Young get on base. You had a hot stretch of Nick Senzel there, who seemed to be hitting doubles every single night up to about a week ago. Because again, if you aren't aware of it now, Nick Senzel hasn't had a hit since June 12th. That is 9 days at this point. That is over a week of Nick Senzel just going 0 for every single night. And maybe because a week from today, that was the infamous moment where he shoved Mackenzie Gore. And since that, really hasn't been all that pretty. But ultimately, the Nationals, if you're not going to hit for power, then you kind of need to bring back that scrappy Nats mentality. Now, this team is still pretty scrappy. They find a way basically every single night. But if you have Mackenzie Gore on the mound, which in yesterday you did, he didn't look all that great. And if the Nationals starting pitching, if you're not going to get the job done, in which Gore did not, by the way, let's be honest, it wasn't his best performance in yesterday's game, then the Nationals aren't going to win the game. Simple as that. And if you don't have yourself set up for Kyle Finnegan coming in the game, for Hunter Harvey to come in the game, and Dylan Floro to come in the game as well, then you're not going to be set up for success. That's just how this Nationals team kind of got to the point where they are now. That is how you did not win yesterday's ball game, in my opinion. Because again, talking about this Nationals team all season long, we've talked about it. It's the starting pitching that has gotten us up to this point. That is why the Nationals sit 2 games below 500, and which is still a surprising and impressive feat, by the way. But the reason why you sit here is because of your starting pitching. But if they aren't going to be going out there giving you 6 innings pitched and only 1 earned run, then they're toast. And the reason why that is because this offense cannot produce in any consistent form whatsoever. That's just what it is. And again, the frustrating part of this entire thing is you have guys on your roster who have individual good stats, like Jesse Winker now is an OPS above 800. He's been producing, so I've kind of put him aside in this problem here. Lane Thomas, while he didn't hit a home run yesterday, he has been better since coming back off the IL. He's been very good, in fact. But you can't just have those 2 guys. And when CJ Abrams out of the lineup as well, you now see what happens. You need guys like Keibert Ruiz to come in and step up and play well and ultimately hit for a little bit more power. You need Joey Meneses to come off the bench and hit well. Ildemaro Vargas, when he's in the lineup, he usually finds a way to get on base. So again, he's kind of sitting aside in this one. He's not going to catch any flack. But ultimately, at this point in time, I think we all know this. This Nationals team is not set up for a deep run in October. Now, when you have James Wood up in the lineup and you have Lane Thomas, CJ Abrams, and James Wood in this, then yeah, it's going to look a little bit different. But still, I'm expecting Jesse Winker, he's going to be shipped off at this trade deadline. I don't expect him to be here come mid-August. He will be traded. And that is the goal for this Nationals team at this point in time. So you're going to be losing one of your main offensive pieces who has been probably your best, most consistent hitter all year long, and which has been one of the most surprising turns. But then you also look at Eddie Rosario, which at one point in time, I was like, oh, he'll be traded instantly. But at this point, he's looking like a DFA. Because if he's batting third in any lineup across Major League Baseball at this point, which he was yesterday, batting third or cleanup, whatever it is, you're not looking good. That's what it is. That is the true serum that we face today. And again, the Nats, it's been an exciting run. I like this team. I like watching this team. It's been fun. But at the end of the day, you can't tell me that this Nats team is set up for a run in October. We just aren't. You cannot do this in the way that this offense has just kind of been taken advantage of by Ryan Nelson. I mean, again, in yesterday's game, the Diamondbacks had 87 pitches in 9 innings. Now, what does that tell me? The Nationals are being aggressive, so they're trying something. But at the end of the day, that's not going to get you anywhere, especially trying to get a run in deep October. So as far as the Nationals go, it was a frustrating watch. You continue to watch this team and just kind of hope and pray that something will click, that something will hit this by someone will hit by the end of this series. But ultimately, a pretty weak Arizona Diamondbacks pitching staff, they took advantage of a pretty lackluster offense in which the Nationals own right now. And again, you've been out with CJ Abrams the last few games here, so obviously that's going to hurt you just a little bit. But again, good teams, they find ways. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, the Nationals just aren't that good of a team. They aren't. They have a good pitching staff. They have good pieces. They have a good core. But at the end of the day, your 1 and 2 hitters can't be the only one getting offensive production. It has to be 1 through 7. You can have a few holes in your lineup as the Diamondbacks did last year, getting to the National League or winning the National League and getting to the World Series. But as you saw in 2024 and in 2023 last year, and in today's game, offense will win you a World Series. Pitching means a lot, of course, but you got to have a fine, well-oiled machine. And the Nationals at this point in time, they just simply do not. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. And of course, while you're at it, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. Just search me up, Ryan Clary 11. Hit that follow button as well. That is where you'll get your latest Nationals news and notes. But next, we got a Nats prospect stock report as we have our eyes on the future here on Locked On Nationals basically every single day. And of course, there was another promotion that we will be getting into a little bit later on in the show. But let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at Stitch Fix. And guys, Stitch Fix, you know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. And with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. This is how you can help with Stitch Fix. Is you can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. My stylist always sends just the right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like they have my style, and I don't know how they do it, but they just get me, and I want them to get you just like they've got my back. So style that makes you feel as good as you look. Now's the best time to get started at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That's $20, $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include kids fixes. Again, stitchfix.com/MLB, and you must redeem within 7 days of sign up. An offer does not include kid fixes. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And now we get into a Nats prospect stock report, as this is where you'll get your latest individual performances for the Nationals and their farm system. And of course, some pretty big name prospects. So we start with a stock up with someone that you may not have heard of, because to be honest, he was not on my radar, but I've been checking the box scores down in the DSL, and this guy is on my radar up at this point. Stylist Tejada, 18 years old, down in the DSL. Through his first 44 at-bats on the season, he is batting .318, a .412 OBP, a .545 slug, and a .957 OPS. But more importantly, he has 16 stolen bases. And again, just his first 44 at-bats down in the DSL. You are stealing bases at a rate that is just insane at this point. Number one, I look at this guy and I'm like, first off, 18 years old, doing this, putting up these numbers down in the DSL, some way, somehow, we got to find a way to get this kid up to rookie ball in Florida and see if we can kind of work his way up through the minor league system here at the Nationals, because he's got a home run, he's got 9 RBIs, he's got 3 doubles and 2 triples as well. Stylist Tejada, again, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on this guy. I haven't really heard too much about him, but at this point in time, you're putting up these monstrous numbers. And again, 16 stolen bases so far on the season through your first 44 at-bats. You're going to be making some headlines here. Stylist Tejada has been on my radar now for the last few games because I've been watching him, and he just continues to hit the ball. He's hitting for power. He's getting extra base hits. And when he gets on base, he's going to be stealing bases. If you're stealing 16 bases through your first 44 at-bats, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but that is going to be an impressive feat no matter which way you turn it. So Stylist Tejada, keep an eye on that name in the DSL. Maybe the Nationals have stumped their toe and found something down in that DSL lineup, because as we all know, the DSL for the Nationals, it has struggled for quite some time. They really have not been all that great in churning out prospects. Christian Vaquero was one of their big name guys. He did not do all too well down there. You've seen it time and time again. So hoping Tejada could be that guy to kind of turn this thing around. Coming out of nowhere, batting leadoff in that lineup, he has been on fire to start 2024. A stock down for 2022 first-round pick, Elijah Green. We're getting real close to calling it quits for Elijah Green. Really close. 19 strikeouts in his last 29 at-bats. He's batting .138, has a .194 OBP, a .172 slug, and a .366 OPS in his last 7 games. Now, I did see that he did have a 100-mile-per-hour double the other day off the bat, but again, 19 strikeouts in your last 29 at-bats. The strikeout rate just continues to be the most concerning thing about Elijah Green. The lack of contact in there, and really the lack of hard contact in general, has been wildly concerning as we continue to try to see if Elijah Green can kind of turn it around. And when the Nationals, and looking ahead as we talked about the draft yesterday, the Nationals, they've always taken a big swing in the draft. That's just what they do. They go for the big ceiling, and it's a smart philosophy in a sense. But the Nationals in years past, they have not really had any luck with developing guys of Elijah Green's caliber. Christian Vaquero is also down in Fredericksburg. Massive upside, but again, you're seeing him struggle a little bit. The Nationals need to find just that high floor guy in the draft. Elijah Green was a massive ceiling, and again, if we're talking ceiling, if they could reach their tippy top potential, there is nobody in this farm system that has a higher potential than Elijah Green. And again, I don't blame Elijah Green for struggling right now because, again, this is kind of on the Nationals, in my opinion. They took him a little bit too early, in my opinion, in the top 5 of the 2022 MLB draft. It was a big swing. They thought they could kind of turn it around, but at this point in time, your first 2 major league seasons, you're batting sub 200. You're not hitting for power. You're not striking. You're striking out way too much, nearly at a 50% clip. It's just not good. And again, 19 strikeouts in his last 29 at-bats. That's not going to get the job done whatsoever. Stock up for Jared McKenzie, a 2022 fifth-round pick out of the University of Baylor. His first 11 games, he kind of started this year a little injured, but he's now back in high A Wilmington where he was last year for the entirety of 2023. Through his first 11 games, he's got a 324 batting average, a 381 OBP, a 459 slug, and an 840 OPS. Jared McKenzie is kind of one of those guys where 2 years ago, he played in about 17 games in Fredericksburg and kind of got on my radar a little bit. He did really well in those 17 games, started last year in high A Wilmington, but only 23 years old. He has been really good so far to start this season. And again, we always talk about Wilmington kind of being one of those hard parks to hit in, as Dalen Lyle just got bumped up from high A to double A Harrisburg. And Jared McKenzie is kind of one of those guys where I would not be surprised to see him move up the rankings relatively quickly because this is someone who does have a little bit of pop in his bat. He can steal some bases, and ultimately, he is not someone that the Nationals are counting on, but he's kind of one of those guys where you could maybe see down the line making the jump and kind of developing here with the Nationals. He's got some tools from the left side of the plate. He's 23 years old. If he can start putting together a nice little stretch here, especially down in that hard-hitting ballpark, I would like to see Jared McKenzie kind of move up these Nationals rankings and get him up to double A, maybe even at some point this summer. But ultimately, he's got to continue this over a long stretch of time. I don't think the Nationals really have any room to make any adjustments at this point unless you ship up Brady House to AAA. But speaking of Brady House, we got a stock down for the former first-round pick. A stock down for Brady House. Listen, it hasn't really been a good stretch for him. He was good to start the year. I mean, he was hitting for power. He's still hitting for power. He still has a lot of home runs in the season, but over his last 6 games, it just hasn't been good. And again, he did have that stretch where, and he's on a little hitting streak right now, but still. The reason why I give him a stock down is because he's got a 333 slug in his last 6 games. When you are a first-round pick, when you have showed me promise that the way that Brady House has, you have higher expectations. You may look at these numbers and say, I'm sure you could probably find someone else who has been struggling a lot more than Brady House, but again, my expectations are high for him. I believe that that Brady House could be the best hitter amongst the Nationals' kind of big 3 prospects. That's the kind of expectations that I have for him. And again, he has shown that over the years that he can be that guy. He killed the crap out of the baseball in Fredericksburg last year, and as well as Wilmington. Made his way up to Harrisburg, looked good as well. Started this year pretty hot, but has since kind of slowed down over the last month or so, kind of been in a little bit of a funk. But ultimately, I need my power hitters. You need to hit for power. That's why I give Joey Meneses all the crap out there in the world when he's with the majors, because again, I need Joey Meneses to hit for power. I need Keibert Ruiz to hit for power. Brady House is in that equation, but down in the minor leagues. I need you to hit power. The Nationals, you've got one major need right now, as we talked about in the first segment. You need power hitting bats. Brady House is one of those guys down in the minors where you can rely on him to be that kind of guy. But ultimately, over the last month or so, it just hasn't really been able to come into fruition. So Brady House stock down for now. But ultimately, it's not just the stock down at this point in time. You have a stock up for Brad Lord. This is like the 10th straight week in a row, I feel like, at this point in time, because Brad Lord was again promoted from AA all the way up to AAA. He finished AA with a 1.4 ERA in 70 2/3 innings pitched, 75 strikeouts, 23 walks, and his slash line against 201 batting average, a 274 OBP, and a 281 slug, a 555 OPS on the season. Brad Lord has been kind of one of those guys who just defies logic at this point. An 18th round pick a few years ago has come up and has just really put his name on the map for this Nationals team. He is now knocking on the doorstep of being in Major League Baseball. He is in AAA. He joins Brady House. He joins Dylan Cruz, rather. He joins James Wood. Brad Lord at this point in time, I mean, let's just say this guy was a 4th round pick 2 years ago. We'd be talking up this guy like he's going to be the next big thing. But again, 18th round pick. He doesn't have the flashiest stuff, but still the results are the results. He has been killing it time and time again. A 1.4 ERA across 70 2/3 innings pitched over about 11 starts in AA. Brad Lord is going to be making a start in AAA. And if he continues to kill it, at some point in time, he's going to pass Jackson Rutledge. I would not be surprised to see him get up to the majors at some point this season before Jackson Rutledge even at this point in time. So Brad Lord continues to kill it. He's on our radar. You have to watch this guy pitch every few days. And Brad Lord, maybe the Nationals found something with an 18th round pick out of the University of South Florida. So thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And now let's preview this Rockies series as the Nationals. They've got their hands tied here, but you're going to course. If you need some power, the high altitude will help you there. Before we get into it, let me tell you guys about our friends at Tax Network USA. And here on Locked On Nationals, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, and it's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collections season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Again, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in this episode description below. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Good news for the Nationals. You've got 3 pretty good guys going for you this week. And in tonight's matchup, you've got DJ Hers against Dakota Hudson. Dakota Hudson has been around for quite some time. And again, in tomorrow's matchup, you got Mitchell Parker against Cal Quantrill and Jake Irvin versus Kyle Freeland on Sunday. So you know how I always say this. I look at that Sunday matchup. Kyle Freeland, a left-handed pitcher, someone who has struggled immensely so far on the 2024 season. Lane Thomas, anytime home run. Hit it with our friends over at FanDuel. I'm telling you right now, in Coors Field, hopefully it's going to be a hot, sunny day there. The ball will be flying at Coors. Lane Thomas, anytime home run against Kyle Freeland. I'm booking it right now. I'm telling you, do it with our friends at FanDuel. So that is my play of this weekend. But you've got DJ Hers going tonight, coming off last week's electric outing for the Nationals. I would like to see DJ Hers kind of go in there. And again, this is someone who has kind of been bitten by a lot of walks in his past down in the minors. He has been bitten by the home run ball as well. DJ Hers, this is going to be a very good test. Now, again, you're going up against a pretty pedestrian Colorado Rockies team, but this will kind of be one of those measuring sticks games for DJ Hers. How good is this guy? Can he be in this starting rotation moving forward? I would like to see it up against high altitude. You're not going up against the best offense ever, but again, the Rockies, they can kind of nip you in the butt at times. That Coors Field and the way that it plays, you all know this. It's the high altitude there. It's going to play some effect in this. It's a deep ballpark, but again, the ball flies. I don't need to say much more. If you're a baseball fan, you know how it is there. The ball can fly there. How many more times do I have to say the ball can fly. So DJ Hurst, this will be a very good measuring stick game. Then looking at tomorrow's matchup, Mitchell Parker, another left-handed pitcher going for us. I mean, at this point in time, I expect the best from Mitchell Parker. I expect 5-6 innings pitch, 1 earned run, a couple punchies, a few walks. That is just the expectation that you should have for Mitchell Parker. But does this magical carpet ride kind of come to an end at some point in time? I don't know. At this point, I'm not going to bet against the kid. So you got Mitchell Parker against Cal Quantrill, who has been around in Major League Baseball for a little bit of time now. Maybe the Nationals can find their way to manufacture runs because, again, you should expect CJ Abrams back in the lineup at some point, getting that cyst on his wrist. I mean, it doesn't sound too serious at this point in time, so that's good to see. He should be back within the next few games. I would expect him maybe to have the day off again here at Coors Field, but ultimately, the Nationals, you got to find a way to step it back up and maybe, just maybe, find your way into a series win because this is a pretty lackluster Rockies team. This is not a good baseball team. Take advantage of the poor pitching that you'll be seeing this weekend, and maybe the Nationals can find their way to get a series win. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there and hit that subscriber button, please. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.